Now I want to talk about using Git, the successes and hurdles that we had as a team. Git is different. Don't come into Git expecting it to be like a one-to-one mapping with the source control systems you've used in the past. It's not like a library where check in, check out like TFVC is. So if you insist on thinking it that way, it's going to take you longer to learn Git. Instead, assume that Git is different and you're going to think in Git, and then it'll become much nicer. It took about 1 to 2 weeks for our team to be conversational, and by conversational I mean we'd be having a huddle or a stand-up and using Git terms, and it took about 1 to 2 weeks where we were all on the same page and knew, oh yeah, I need to pull those, the latest, or I need to commit on my local branch. All those things didn't quite make sense except for a few of us on the team until a couple weeks had passed. And I also add that Visual Studio Git integration is just okay. It's got a lot of pluses, and for the most part, it'll get the job done for you. There's just going to be instances where you're going to want to try something different. To help you out, I know if you're not a Git expert, you hear these terms and you think in your head you know what's going on, but let me help you out here. When I say Git clone, that means create workspace and get latest. When I say Git checkout, that's switching the workspace or switching a branch. It's not checking out a file as in, oh, I get to work on this file exclusively. It really means switching branches. When I say commit, it's a check-in, but it's only a check-in locally. It's not a check-in to the server, to the cloud. So there's a difference between a git commit and then a git push, which would be a check-in to the cloud. Git status is showing pending changes. So if you ever viewed your pending changes in Visual Studio, you would do the same thing in Git with a git status. And then a git pull is getting the latest version in TFS kind of a language. And then there's a sync, which you'll see in your Visual Studio. A sync is not a Git term. In the Git community, there's no git sync. But if you see that button, really it's just rolling two commands into one. It's a git push and then a git pull. And again, does not exist in the Git world with those two together. And in TFS, that'd be like check in and get latest version is kind of what that would mean. I'm showing the same chart again on the left, but over here on the right, I'm showing the Visual Studio UI to help you map where these actions occur. You see the pull and the push on the same line there with the sync button. So remember, those are get latest, check-ins, and then there's a push also down below here under outgoing commits. I wanted to show a video how TFS and Git and Visual Studio all work together. We sometimes as a team run into some goofy things with our Visual Studio Git tooling. I wasn't trying to show that it had some problems, but it just so happened while I was shooting this video it had some problems. So here I'm just going to show you what's going on in my confusion. I'm going to add a file to this, or add a comment to this CoffeeScript file, and then I'll save the change up here. So you'll notice right away Visual Studio sees the file change. That's great. It set it in as an included change, and I want to commit this. So first I want to make sure I'm on the master branch. I can see the other branches, and yes, I am on the master branch. And I want to type in a commit message here. Let's give it a quick one. And I'll click the commit button, and Bob's your uncle. The Git commit was created locally, and then again with Git, the server doesn't know about my change yet. I haven't pushed that up. So this is local. My work's saved locally. I can see the outgoing commit is sitting there ready to go. It sees my comment that I typed in. Everything's ready to go. So let's pull changes, and or try to push it. It says there are remote changes. You must pull before you push. Makes sense. I don't want to try to ruin what's already out there. So I click pull, and I get this conflict. All right, so let's merge let's resolve this conflict. And I go, and there's nothing to resolve. There's nothing listed here. It's pretty confusing at this point. So okay, well maybe it's a mistake. Let's maybe it auto-resolved it. And I click the view resolved, and again, there's nothing there. And then it says, okay, so commit to finish it. I'm confused at this point. Let's just undo everything I did. Let's go back to scratch, and then I'll do a pull. And it sees, oh, there's 10 things waiting to pull in. Great, let's get them. I'll click the sync button. And again, it's saying there's a conflict. And it's not telling me what the problem is, but I just have to know magically there's a conflict. At some point, I'm just throwing the towel here. I don't know why the tool is making it so hard for me just to do a commit. So I like to recommend Git extensions. There's other tools out there that are similar to Git extensions. There's Source Tree from Talisian. I can never say that term right. PoshGit, Tortoise Git. This is showing me that my commit is here, but it's not pushed to the server because the commit has 2 next to it. Let me just do a pull from here, and you'll see right away that there's more options here than in Visual Studio. I can actually decide whether it's a git merge, git rebase, whether fast forward's allowed. I'll just hit the pull button, and then it tells me right away what the problem is. You have unstaged changes. So that's what the problem was. If it had only said that, come over here to commit. I see my 2 files here in the pre-staging area. Let's just right-click on them, and I will reset them. It's similar to undo pending changes, but I'll do that, and then those files won't be in the way with changes, and my pull should succeed. All right, so close out all this. Let's go back over to the pull, the little pull arrow here. And I like doing pull rebases for a straight, like a nice clean history. And it's doing its thing, rewinding the head. That just sounds cool. And it applied my changes. It worked fine now. No more conflicts. It gave me it told me what was going on. And now I can push my changes to the server so that other people can have my commit. Again, more options in the push than Visual Studio gives you in case you wanted to change it up a little bit. So I see that the master and the origin master are both pointing to the same commit, so that tells me that we're in sync with the server. And now when I come down here, I can see that my comment is showing up correctly in the diff. Go back to Visual Studio, and everything's working as you'd expect. It sees the changes. I can reload all. It gets all the changes that I pulled in from Git, from the other team members, and then it also has the commit that I just did. It's still there. It didn't get blown away. One of the questions that people have with Visual Studio Online is, can I do automated builds that run locally on my network because I need these to deploy to a server internally and stuff like that. And the cool thing is, yeah, you can. If I go over to builds, you can see the continuous build is actually triggered when I did that push with my new commit. And you get your real-time build summary. You can see the progress as it's going. All the stuff you got with on-premise Team Foundation server, you get with Visual Studio Online. You even get the history. You can hover over these bars to see how long those builds in the past lasted, and you'll see red bars for failed builds, orange bars for partially failed. So I recommend Git extensions for your Git enhancements. If you are running into troubles, please use that tool. Git gotchas. So a few things we ran into. One thing is line endings. You're going to have to decide what you're going to do with line endings when you start using Git. Git prefers that you use a mode called auto CRLF equal to true. The Git community thinks that this is the best way. The reason being, if we're all on the same page, you can check in your files as Unix and check them out as Windows. And that way, it works on Windows platforms, but somebody on a different platform, on a Mac or a Linux box, they can also edit your files, and you guys won't have conflicts on line endings all the time. The safe bet, if you don't want to just mess around with anything, is to use checkout as is, check in as is. and then it won't even mess around with line endings. The problem might be, though, if someday you want to contribute to maybe some JavaScript library you use, you might want to submit a pull request to fix a bug that you have, or you want to share your code out with the rest of the community. They're going to want you to have auto CRLF set to true, which is check out Windows style, check in Unix style. If you have that set, then they won't have to deal with their line ending problems in the community. So set a policy early on. Think about how you want to think about how you want to approach this problem. But I again would recommend just biting the bullet. Do auto CRLF equal to true, and then then you never have to think about it later on down the road. You have one big massive check-in with all the line endings being different, and just live with it that one time, and then you're set for the rest of the project. Another problem we ran into is what the proper workflow is if you have a merge that you have to take place, and I would recommend doing your commit locally, then doing a pull, and then pushing your changes. And the reason for that is your commit locally means, okay, I don't want to lose these files by doing a bad pull or clicking the wrong button during the pull. So if you commit locally, you won't lose your changes. Then when you pull, you'll merge your changes into what's on the server, and then you'll push the result back to the cloud or back to the origin, and then everybody gets your changes. The easy way to remember that is alphabetical order: commit, pull, push. I queried my team of 9 developers about their opinion on Git. We've only been using it for 4 months for most of us, some of us even less because they joined the team later. The first thing I asked was, how much Git experience did you have before we switched to Git? And a few of us had said intermediate. One of us was an expert. Most of them had no experience with Git beforehand. I then asked, how long did it take you to get comfortable with Git, where you felt like, okay, I'm not worried about what I'm doing. I have a good feel for how to do commits and merges and all that. And most people said less than 1 to 2 weeks. There was one that said 3 to 4 weeks. He was our expert, but the reason why, he said, was because he had to learn it on his own. He had to learn Git by himself with Google searches and Stack Overflow, and he didn't have the rest of the team to help him. We all got up to speed a lot faster because we all helped each other out. My team, I asked them, hey, tell me your opinion on Git in 160 characters or less, and these are their opinions. I won't read them all to you. The most critical comment was the one in the top right corner, which said, I like Git, and he mentioned a few negatives. Automatic merging, often not as good. Tortoise SVN. And it just talks about how if you have a bad merge, you get kind of a weird state. And these are all real, raw opinions, and they're good. I don't want to discount any of them. Keep in mind, some of us have just been using Git for a few months. I think these problems start to go down to negligible as we become more and more experienced with it, but it's still something that you're going to run into on your team. Here are some more comments about Git. You always got to love the very concise, Git is not bad. That really inspires confidence in the users.